Hi, it's Jerry Sandusky. That's Jerry with a G, president of the Sandusky Group. In this video, I'm going to share with you a few techniques that can help you handle an emergency presentation that you might have to do by way of Skype, like I'm doing here, or GoToMeeting or other remote technologies. The same techniques work if you have to do a media interview that you are called upon to do using remote technologies and you don't have much time to prepare and you don't have any time to do anything with the way you look. It's drop what you're doing, do the presentation, do the interview, do it right now. John Shimlansky, one of the regular viewers of Rules of Engagement, sent me an email and asked, what do you do in a situation like he faces frequently when you work out in the field remotely from the corporate headquarters and suddenly you are called in to either make a presentation back to the corporate headquarters or you have to suddenly do a media interview and you're out in the field, your hair's messed up, maybe you haven't shaved that day, you look like a mess, and you don't have that much time to pull together your thoughts. Well, John, and for everybody else, here are a couple of techniques that can get you through. First, even in a hurried situation, make sure your setup is eye level, your eyes and the computer lens that you're looking into, whether that is a laptop like I'm using right now or if it's on your cell phone. The second thing you want to do is check your audio. I'm wearing a microphone right now so that the audio on this video is as easy to hear as possible. If you have bad audio, it's very distracting to your audience. Now, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to have time to find a microphone to plug in for an emergency presentation or interview. But you can do a couple of things. Minimize the audio around you, the noise around you. Make sure there's no televisions on, make sure nobody's running the shower. If the kids are at home, ask them to be quiet. Just keep the noise around you down to a minimum. The third thing you want to do, especially in a scramble, if something big has happened and you have to do this presentation or media interview right now, you don't want to do the entire thing off the top of your head. Take a moment and put together some notes. That's what I did for this video. I actually didn't take a lot of time to prepare this intentionally. I wanted to do it so that it felt as natural to me as it might have to feel to you. I put together 3 little post-it notes. They contain the 4 points that I want to share in this video. Do the same thing. You'll know what the topic is, the reason for this emergency, whether it's a presentation to the board of directors, whether it's a client you have to suddenly talk with, whether it's CNN, whatever the case might be. Just jot down your 3 key points, the 3 main things you want to make sure you get across in the course of this presentation. And finally, if you are called in to do an emergency presentation via Skype, GoToMeeting, or remote technology, or if you have to do a right now Skype interview, you're usually not going to have time to adjust your appearance to what you would normally do in a TV studio or in front of a large audience in an auditorium. You just have to make do with what you have. So what you want to do in that case is minimize the impact of your appearance. And here's what I mean. If you had to be in the backyard with the kids and all of a sudden you're called into this presentation and your hair is a mess and you haven't shaved that day, ladies, you haven't had any chance to put on makeup and you're wearing just ratty gym clothes, you don't look the part at all, that's going to stand out. People are going to notice. You want to minimize that. The first thing you should do is think about your background. Notice the background I have behind me is in kind of good situation in that there's some depth. It's not too overpowering and I'm being centered. I'm right in the middle of it. The attention is on me. If I don't want that much attention on me, all I have to do is change the background and put more going on behind me, at which point you look at me a little less. Here's an example. Notice how different everything is with a very busy background. I changed the lighting. And this is an absolute not ideal situation because there's so much going on behind me. It's so busy that you're looking at some of the surroundings and not necessarily at me, which you would never want to do unless you don't look your best and you don't want the attention on you. So if you want to minimize your appearance, you can do it by having a very busy background and change the lighting. The other thing you can do to minimize your appearance is to create more distance between yourself and the camera. Too often in Skype-style interviews and presentations, people get closer to the camera and it freaks out the audience because all of a sudden you're distorting everything and you're highlighting the imperfections. You want to sit back farther from the camera. Even if at first it feels a little bit awkward, again, this is minimizing you and minimizing your uncomfortable feeling about the fact that, hey, you had to come in wearing a sweatshirt. Your hair was a little messed up. You didn't have on makeup. It was literally an emergency. There was no time to look the part. So minimize the appearance by maximizing the distance. And the last thing you can do to minimize your appearance, and this is one I always keep handy, is keep a baseball cap around. Ladies, you know what it's like?
If your hair is all over the place, everybody's thinking, what's wrong with her hair? Guys, if you haven't had a chance to shave, if your hair is a mess, you can minimize everything by just putting on a baseball cap. And it's important to make sure it's a cap that has your company logo or something you're identified with. I close every one of these videos, you know how I do it, by saying the hay's in the barn. It's the phrase that I use at the end of a winning Ravens broadcast. So if all of a sudden I have to do an emergency presentation, it's completely in context for me to have a hay's in the barn hat. By the way, you can get yours at thehayisinthebarn.com. Sidebar, you really can. But if I don't have time to shave, I don't have time to get myself together, and I have to do this presentation, I can minimize my appearance by maximizing my brand and creating a higher comfort level in an uncomfortable situation. I hope that helps. If you enjoyed it, thank John. He's the one who asked the question. And take a minute and send a question my way. Drop me an email, leave a comment below this video. Let me know some of the topics you'd like me to cover here on the rules of engagement. For now, the hay's in the barn.